Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you guys for sharing what you're hearing from God, what you're learning, personally, and that encourages us, right? It's an encouragement to your peers, to this community when we kind of get to hear how God is working in each other's lives, um, and hopefully that sparks you to kind of lean closer in and listen, better throughout the week too, right? And yeah, I get the privilege of introducing our speaker tonight, Pastor Jeff Bjorgan. Jeff is the pastor from Emmanuel Church over on the west side. When I first moved to Kelowna, and I didn't understand that West Kelowna was a different city than Kelowna. No, me and my wife, we started attending there and quickly built a friendship with Jeff, and we found a lot of affinity in our love for theology, and just Jeff is a great guy who I personally love inviting him to come rub shoulders with you guys. He is one of those people who um, is lives out what he believes, and it's really evident in his life and his character and his nature and the way that he builds relationships with others. And to me it's just really evident. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoy what he has to share tonight. So we are continuing in our series and kind of winding up our series actually for the month, which we titled Everyone a Mentor, Everyone a Mentee. And I know Jeff has some cool stories, so take it away, Jeff.
Thanks, James. Can everybody hear me okay? Just a little wave. It's wonderful. It's an honor, guys, to be able to chat with you tonight and talk about a topic that I think is incredible. I love this conversation about mentoring. To me, it's been in pastoral ministry, it's been a bit of the carrot at the end of the stick that I'm always trying to chase towards, this idea of mentorship as part of discipleship. I love the idea of mentoring. I have always had mentors, and I've always been on the lookout for mentors. If there's a key takeaway tonight that I can say right from the get-go is I believe strongly that all of us have room in our lives, no matter how busy we are, for another mentor, and all of us have room in our lives, no matter how busy we are, for another friend. And I use that word friendship and mentoring together, and not everybody does, but I have a difficulty seeing a mentor as anything else but a friend. A mentor is gracing us with their time, their efforts, by sending friendship your way. And I I love the idea of continuing to let people inform our lives. I'm a product of other people's lives. I wish I had unique ideas, but really, as I've continued to grow up and then just plain grow old, I recognize that most of my ideas have come from somewhere and have formed me. And so I recognize that people have influenced my life, and I believe that, again, that's important for all of us to continue to have people in our lives that form us, especially at the stage of life that you guys are at in student ville, where you guys are continue to have people pour into you, whether it's through teachers, instructions, through books, through mentors that you may have yourself. This is the time where you are being deeply formed. I'm going to share the screen here if I can figure out how to do this well, which again could be a big challenge. Do you guys see that okay? Maybe sees it good. That's awesome. I think I have it. Can I just ask one more question? Are you actually seeing the full PowerPoint, or are you just seeing my screen sharing the PowerPoint?
You can
Yeah,
see all the slides. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
You
perfect.
got it.
Awesome. So this is a quote here that has been inspirational for me, challenging for me. And I've preached it, but often people just stare back at me going, I don't get it. Or are you trying to be offensive? And I'm not trying to be offensive, but I believe in it. This comes from one of my mentors, which is Eugene Peterson. And he says, friendship is as important as spiritual discipline as prayer and fasting. And some people might see that as a controversial statement because they're going, a spiritual discipline, well, that is prayer and fasting. That's where you study God's word, where you're praying, you're seeking God's face and his influence in your life. Friendship is not a spiritual discipline, is it really? And Eugene Peterson suggests that not only is it a spiritual discipline, it's just as important a spiritual discipline as any of the other spiritual disciplines we participate in the Christian faith. And I've been wrestling with that idea all my life, going, how do I continue to grow in my relationship with God by practicing the hard work of friendship or the hard work of mentoring? So today, I just wanted to take some time to reflect on the relationship between Moses and Joshua. We got to hear a little bit of Moses today. I think Megan shared a little bit from Exodus, and I'm going to look at this mentoring relationship and just kind of ask the questions: what are we looking for in a mentor? And when I look at a few verses from Moses and Joshua, then I'm going to ask the question, what kind of mentors are out there, and then how do we engage these mentors? So those are kind of where we'll go a little bit tonight here. And the story of Moses and Joshua is very important to me because in many ways I've been a Joshua. I've been a pastor here at Emmanuel Church for 15 years. And the first 9 years of my life here was an associate pastor. And my senior pastor, we went into a building program, and halfway through the building program, he left to go to another church. And people were praying and wondering where the church should go. And they were praying for a Joshua to replace the Moses. And somewhere along the way, I became the Joshua. And if you're not familiar with the story, Moses is basically the prophet that led the people of Israel out of captivity, out of Egypt, went through a wilderness, led them to the promised land, and then passed on the leadership baton to Joshua, who led the people into the promised land. And I'm not going to go through a whole passage of scripture. I was looking for verses that talk about what's the relationship between Moses and Joshua, and what does this teach us about things that we would like to see in a mentor? That's just my basic question today. And so I looked at a few different verses, and again, there's no rhyme or reason to how they lined up. But even as you read the passages, they don't seem to have too much logical, like a linear thought to them. They kind of bounce around. And so as I looked at the passages, I just wanted to present you some of my observations. So when I look at Moses and Joshua and their relationship, the first thing that I notice here is that Moses named Joshua. Now that's a very interesting thought. I never knew this. It kind of blew my mind a little bit. It's in Numbers chapter 13, verse 16. Moses is talking about all these different spies that he sent to go into the promised land, to survey the land, to see if it would be good for them to enter. And he just starts labeling them all. And one of the spies is named Hoshea, I'm sure it is. Well, it doesn't say Joshua in the list of spies. Later on in verse 16, it says, oh, by the way, it doesn't say by the way, but that's Jeff language there. Moses gave Hoshea, which means salvation, a new name, Joshua, which means God saves. I thought that's interesting. In the Old Testament, names are very important. It kind of defines who you are and what your role is, where you're going in life. And Moses got the chance to do the naming. Moses named the person he was mentoring. And I love that language. I think it's remarkable because when I think of mentoring, I'm looking for someone who sees us. I'm looking for someone who sees me. Someone who identifies me, someone who looks at me and goes, I see you. Someone that calls something out in us, something that maybe we knew about ourselves, but we weren't necessarily confident enough to walk into it. A mentor comes along and names us. In my own life, I had just that fascinating feeling when someone, a leader, names you, recognizes you, identifies you. There was a leader, he was a leader in the district. I respected him and I saw him from a distance. He pastored a large church in Calgary, and I would have loved to have gotten to get to know him, but I'd never met him before. And one day at a big gathering, it was one of our conferences, I was walking through his church foyer, and he walked by chatting with a bunch of people, looked up, and he just said, hey, Jeff, how are you? And just kept on going. And the irony to me was that I had never met him before in my entire life. And somewhere along the way, he thought the names were important. And he thought, I need to know names of people, not just faces or bodies going by or credential holders. I need to know names. And you know what? It didn't lead into a deep mentoring relationship or anything, but I just thought it felt good to be named. I had another friend. He was an intern of ours in the church that I was in when I was growing up. I hadn't gone to Bible college yet, wanted to know if maybe I should go into pastorate or something else. And I kept bugging this guy. What's college like? What do you think I can do well there? When should I go? And he just would listen to me. And then one day he was at a computer screen. I remember him just typing away, just listening to me yak and yak. And then one day he just turned, looked at me and said, Jeff, you're going to go to college. You're going to become a student leader. And your last year, you're going to be a student body president. You're going to do just fine. And then he turned back and kept typing. I thought, that's just the bizarrest thing to ever say. Why would he call that out in this 17-year-old kid? And, I went to Bible college. I got into student leadership. In my last year, I became the student body president. And I thought, how did that guy know these things? How did he call that out? He saw something in me. And so I just wanted to make mention of that. That's the first observation. Moses' name's Joshua. The second thing you notice is that Moses includes him in his inner circle. You see in Exodus chapter 24, it says, so Moses got up. It's just these little tidbits that are mentioned in scripture. Moses gets up and then he's accompanied by Joshua, who was his aide. Joshua was always with Moses. In Numbers 11, it says, Joshua, son of Nun, who had been Moses' right-hand man since his youth, stood up and got the chance to talk. I think it's incredible when a mentor brings you into his inner circle. One of the best ways a mentor shows value in their mentor to their mentee is to introduce them to others. I know The Sopranos is an old show and you may not have watched it, but it did give that sense of the mafia family, that club. Go, hey, come on in, come meet Louie, come meet Uncle Fred, come meet Uncle Fred's cousin also named Louie. Before you know it, the entire family knows the new family member. And it gives you this sense that you're included. And I've always asked myself the question, how do you grow unless you're surrounded by people that can stretch you? And a great mentor is someone that brings you into a circle of other people that can speak into your life. Here's another observation I noticed. Moses trusted Joshua. Exodus chapter 17, verses 8-9, it says, Moses ordered Joshua. He ordered him into battle. He ordered him to do some different things for him. And right away, Joshua did what Moses ordered. That's what the next verse says. Joshua, do this. And Joshua said, yes, sir. When I think of learning in life, I think that I hate being the third wheel. I hate being that guy that's always kind of on the outside that people forget about and then go, oh yeah, I guess we should bring him in. For a couple summers when I was at Regent College, I worked doing excavation. For a while there, I was at one of the UBC buildings that all I had to do for an entire 8-hour shift is just tell people to not step on a piece of wood that was on the sidewalk. Yeah, don't step there. Don't step on that. Don't do that. For 8 hours. And I thought, what is this? How am I being taught? How am I being trained? Trust me with something more. And I think a good mentor is someone that trusts us to learn, to grow, and to fail by giving us some responsibility. Years back when I was in high school, I was in music and we got the chance to write composition. So I got to write a composition for my high school band. And at the big music concert where all the parents are at and they get to listen to what's being played, my music instructor says, Jeff Bjorgan, you can come on down. I'm going to give you the conductor's stick and I want you to conduct your own song. You think that made a difference in my life? I'm still telling you that this day, 25 years later, going, I got the chance to lead. I got the chance to lead. I remember when my senior pastor said, Jeff, you've been doing this long enough as an associate. I want you to plan Sunday. It's yours. I'm leaving town. You just go figure it out. And I just thrown right into the deep end. And it's like, you trusted me. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me. Here's the last observation for you. God orchestrated it all. I love it in Exodus chapter 17. It says, God said to Moses, write this up as a reminder to Joshua. In other words, hey, don't write this down for your own sake, but Moses, write this down. What you've seen, what you've heard that I've been up to, write it down as a reminder to Joshua. Keep it before him. Remind him about what I'm up to. And then later on in Deuteronomy chapter 31, Moses says to Joshua, with all Israel watching, be strong, Joshua. Take courage. And then he says these incredible, encouraging words. God is striding ahead of you. He's right there with you. He won't let you down. He won't leave you. Don't be intimidated. Don't worry. What do I want in a mentor? I want someone who's kind of showed me the way when it comes to the faith. Faith is sometimes really hard to grow in when you haven't seen it in other people first. You sometimes find God for the first time when you've seen him in the lives of somebody else. And so when I look at these four things that I've seen Moses did for Joshua, I'm going, yeah, this is exactly what I want in a mentor. I want to be noticed. I want to be identified. I want to be named. I want to be included. I want to be trusted, and I want to be mentored in the faith. So those were some reflections that I get out of the story of Moses and Joshua. I want to be valued enough by another that they're willing to help develop me into who God has called me to be. At the end of the day, I want somebody to value me so that I can be who God has called me to be. So a couple more questions for you tonight before we break off into small group time is, what kind of mentors are out there? And this is now just kind of going into my own experiences. I'm going to use just a few different words that you might be helpful to, you might not be. But these are different types of mentors that I've had. The first mentor is the friend. This is this idea that I've wanted a supportive relationship. Again, we talked about friendship is as important as spiritual discipline as prayer and fasting. So from the moment I graduated from college, I would hunt down friends or somebody that could be a friend and say, hey, will you mentor me? Can we walk alongside each other in friendship? And one of my key friends early on was the associate pastor of the first church I was at. His name was Ron. And he had just come into the church just when I had come to the church to pastor together. And in the first day that he was in the office, I said, can we meet regularly? Can we be friends? Can we be accountability partners? And I just overwhelmed him with my questions of becoming friends. And he said, sure, let's do it. And we took a little Eugene Peterson book. He was the guy that introduced me to Eugene Peterson on friendship. And we met every Monday. We met at a local park, sat on the park bench, and we just started sharing life stories together, praying with one another, talking a lot about hockey. He was a diehard Oilers fan. I was a Vancouver Canucks fan, and so we were always arguing. And to this day, we went on from those churches. We've had kids. He's gone on. He's now is in California somewhere, and I still connect with him probably once every 2 weeks, just to experience life again. How are we doing in life? So that was a friend. So I'm always on the pursuit of friends. Then I've got another one here called the author. Now there it is. Perfect, it's working. Now the author is like what you need to have authors in your life. When I mean authors, I mean those that have wisdom that you can't find elsewhere. Early in my pastoral life, I was very passionate about being a successful pastor, and I had certain metrics. I was a children's pastor. I wanted to have the biggest children's ministries in Canada. I wanted to have hundreds of children in my church. Like these numbers were very important to me. I wanted to be on a speaking circuit. I wanted to write a book. I had all these great ideas to basically become a minor Canadian Christian celebrity. And then somebody handed me these Eugene Peterson books, and you open up the first book by Eugene Peterson, and he says, you're being lied to. Church is not a hustle of goods and services. People in the pews are not consumers. You are not a snake oil salesman. And it wrecked me. I'd never heard this language before. I didn't understand a language of pastoring that went beyond CEO, vision casting, being the visionary leader. Um, I saw language that resonated with me, uh, but that I wasn't living out. And so this author changed my life, changed how I pastored, changed, or at least how I wrestled with pastoring. I actually went to Regent College because I wanted to learn from Eugene Peterson, and that guy had retired right before I came. And so I never got a single Eugene Peterson class. And later on, here at my church here, I was in a discipleship course, and they said, "What regrets do you have?" And I said, "One of my great regrets is I never met my author mentor, Eugene Peterson." And they said, "Why not try now?" It's like, "Well, I don't know how to do that. How do you even meet him?" It's like, "Have you ever heard of the internet?" And so, I Googled him. I creeped him and found his address in Montana, wrote him a letter and said, "Can I go meet you?" And he wrote back and said, "Okay, here's my phone number. I don't do email." So to this day, in my phone, I have Eugene Peterson's phone number. Now, he's dead, which is sad. But at the time, I booked a holiday around meeting with Eugene Peterson, drove all the way to Montana, sat on his deck for a day, and just blubbered to him, blah, 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 blah. "This is what you mean to me, and this is what the Message Bible." I don't know if you know who this guy is, but he wrote the Message Bible. And I just got to sit and chat. And a few years later, I saw Bono from U2 on the same deck chatting with Eugene Peterson. I said, "Bono, you got that idea from me. I'm the guy that met with my author mentors." So anyways, that was one of the kind of mentors that I've met along the way. People that give you wisdom that you don't necessarily find elsewhere. And then the leader. This is the Joshua story. This is the idea that there are people in our lives that help us to grow in the areas that we want to have influence in. I don't know what you might be doing in school, but you might be going, I want to become a sociologist. So you're looking for that leader in sociology that can come alongside you, or you want to become a doctor or a nurse. You're looking for those people that you admire in the field, that you're going, "Can you just walk alongside me in this?" And I was grateful in pastoral ministry. My lead pastor here was a guy named Derek Hamry. He was a strong leader, a forceful type A personality. And he'd be the kind of guy that if somebody would pass away in the church, and he'd call me into his office and he'd say, "I have to do a funeral for so and so. Have you ever done a funeral?" "No, I haven't." "You're going to sit down with me right now, and we're going to walk through a funeral bit by bit, and you're going to help me do that funeral." And he did that for weddings and for funerals and for crisis management and for running meetings. And when he walked away from the church, and I replaced him with fear and trembling, he had given me a mentoring that I never expected would happen. But it was this leadership type of mentoring. So those are three kind of mentors that I've had, and that kind of ends. Just the last part here would be this idea of how do you find the mentors? So if these are the types of mentors that you have out there, Jeff, how did you find your mentors? And this is where it gets a little tough. I chat with a lot of people. Everybody would like a mentor. Where do you find a mentor? And the first thing I've done is I call it the date. It's the most awkward way to find a mentor, and I've done it wherever I've gone. I find someone that I go, I would love to have a deeper friendship with them. And I go, "Hey, do you want to have a coffee and talk about having a deeper relationship?" And so if I haven't freaked them out already, they go, "Sure." They go to the coffee bar. And then I start talking, going, what I'm looking for in a friendship is someone that can just meet on a weekly basis. We just ask each other how we're doing, and we pray with one another, and we try to grow and share life together. And we do this for a long period of time. And then they say something like, "It's not you, it's me. And yeah, we'll see you later. Someday, maybe, never." And you go through a dating process, and you might think that's awkward, but you know what? I met with a guy back 15 years ago when I came to West Kelowna, and I sat for coffee with him. And I said, "I've been here for a few weeks. I've only known you for these few weeks, but I think we resonate. And I'd love to meet with you regularly. Have you ever met with somebody on a weekly basis? And he goes, no. Would you do that? He goes, well, you're being very forward. It's like, yeah, I am. But let's try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And we've been meeting on and off for almost 15 years. He just called me the other day and asked me to be his, or the person that looks after his will when he's about to die and somebody has to figure out how to pull the plug or not. What's that called? Attorney something?
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney. Yeah, I'm now the power of attorney for a friend that I forced myself into his life. So sometimes you have to do the date. The second thing is you got to do the mimic. And what I mean by this goes with the author mentor, is how do I get Eugene Peterson to mentor me when I don't even know him, besides haunting him and hunting him down? I start reading everything that he wrote. I start writing sentences like he writes. Now, I'm not trying to be Eugene Peterson. I'm trying to be Jeff Bjorgan, but taking on the things I've appreciated about him and trying to incorporate into my life. So I start to mimic. I just got in the mail this past week his latest book, written in 2021. Now, again, he passed away in 2018. I cried like a baby. But somehow they're still publishing his books. So I grabbed a book, I start reading through it, I get my Eugene Peterson fix, and I start to go, how do I incorporate this into my life? So I do the hard work of being a mimic. And that's similar to the last one, which is the apprenticeship. The difference between mimicking and apprenticeship to me is that I'm not mimicking someone that's at a distance. I'm being apprenticed by somebody that's in the here and now, whether that's through our Zoom calls or working alongside. And again, I've asked people going, will you walk alongside me as I learn and I grow? Again, my most recent apprenticeship has been a retired professor that moved to town. He was a professor at Trinity Western, and he, for 20 years, had done Christian education. He taught pastors how to pastor before they became pastors. And now he's retired and he attends Emmanuel Church. So I did my date, called him up, went for a meal. I said, I've been a senior pastor now for 5 years. I've been in pastoral ministry for over 20 years. You have a lot of experience. You need to speak into my life. Can you be my mentor? Because I think I need to learn new things. And he said, we moved here in retirement saying, God, please send a pastor our way that will invite us into his life so we can walk alongside him and share what we know, be an encouragement to him. So that's been going for a year. And again, it's been life-giving to me. It's hard work. But I think if we can have people in our life that are friends and authors and leaders, if we can pursue them through the hard work of dating, mimicking, going through an apprenticeship, then we can say at the end of the day, all of us have room for another friend, and all of us have room for another mentor. And that's all I got for you tonight. God bless you guys.